6 lines from the bottom. Memvav and Aleph, 6 lines from the bottom. The Mishnah discussed the case. We have 2 cases in the Mishnah. A man says to a woman, his person has 3 dates. And he says, and one of the dates is a Sheva Pruta. 2 of the dates are not a Sheva Pruta. To be married, you need a Sheva Pruta. He says, Hiskachi Bezu, Hiskachi Bezu, Hiskachi Bezu. And he gives each one of the dates. So since one of the dates he gave her was Sheva Pruta, she's married. Right? Each act of giving her the date was a separate act of kiddushin. So even though the first one was nothing, because it was supposed to be Sheva Pruta, last one was nothing, also because it was less than a cent, but as long as one of them was a cent, it's not a problem. Right? Let's say every one of them was supposed to be Sheva Pruta. Then she's not married, because each act was a separate act of marriage. And each time he says Hiskachi, he gave her something which wasn't considered an act of marriage, she's not married. What about if he would give her, he'd say, Hiskachi Bezu, Bezu, Bezu. He did not repeat the word Hiskachi. And let's say each date was Pachs Mishava Pruta, she's married. Because we combined the value of all 3 dates. So he gave her something which was worth minimally a cent. So she's married. That's clear. Then it concludes, it's what about as he gives her the dates, she eats one after, he gives her one, she eats it. So when he gave her the second one, the first one didn't exist. And when he gave her the third one, the first 2 didn't exist. So it says that if, the simple reading is if any of them, even the original date, was a Shava Pruta, she's Mukudeshes. That's what the Mishnah says. So the Gemara has a little bit of a problem. So more wants to know what case is it speaking about. Is it speaking about the case where he said Hiskachi every time he gave her a date? Hiskachi with this date that's worth a cent, and she ate it. And they say Hiskachi with this date, whatever it was. So what's the Kiddush? What's the she ate or not? The moment he gave her the date, she's married. Is it relevant to me what she did with it afterwards? It's irrelevant what she did with the date afterwards. It was worth a cent when he gave it to her. So that, what she chose to do with it after she received it, she's a married woman. The marriage is post-marriage. So evidently, it cannot go on the ratio. So evidently, it's going on the concluding case, where it's cumulative. So the Gemara asks, but how could she be married? Let's say the first date was a Shava Pruta. So when he comes to the last date, she's already, it's a milveh. He wants, they should be combined. So until he gets to the last date, the first date was not considered an act of marriage yet. So how could she be married? It's a milveh, even if it was a pruta. The first date was a pruta. She ate it. Now when you come to the last date, last 2 dates, and the post mishov and pruta. So it says we can combine the first with the others, she's married. The Gemara says, how could you combine them? If she ate them, she ate it, and when it concluded, no longer existed, it's a milveh. Mekadosh milveh in mukudeshes. Right? That was the Gemara's question. Okay? So there were 2 answers given. One answer was that there's a chiddush. Factually, it's going on the first case, where he says, Hiskachi. He says, what's the chiddush? The chiddush is that you would think that even though it's post mishave pruta, if you give a woman something worth less than a cent, it's understood she's not married. But what about she ate it, and she benefited from it? So since you would say, since she benefited, maybe that elevates its value, because she had a personal benefit. Mishnah says no. Unless it's a Sheva Pruto, whether she eats it or doesn't eat it, it's not Mekudeshes. That's what the Mishnah is telling us. That was the first answer. That's Rav and Shmuel. That's what the answer. Rav Ami says no. Rav Ami says when we say she ate, if it's a Sheva Pruto, it's not the date that was eaten, it was the last date. That as long as the last date was a Sheva Pruta, the original dates are relevant to me. Whether they were or not, she's Mekudeshes. Why? The first date, even the Sheva Pruta, she's not Mekudeshes. Because that's Mekadosh Milveh. Because when it concluded, it no longer existed. Correct? That's a Mekadosh Milveh. So when the Mishnah says, if the date is worth a Sheva Pruta, she's Mekudeshes, we're speaking about the last date. Bezu, bezu, bezu. I'm marrying you with A, B, C. Right? So I'm marrying with A, she eats it. It's worth a cent, worth 10 cents, less than a cent. Second one also. As long as the last one is worth a cent, she's Mukudeshes. Because when he concluded the act of marriage, he gave her something of value. So in actual, what did he marry you with? What did he marry? He married with this milveh and a pruta. Because we say the date she ate, well, how are we classifying that? Right? She's classified as milveh. So as long as when it concluded, he gave her the penny, right? The date that's worth a cent, he's Mekadosh what? With money. That's worth money. You have a problem with this, Ernie? Okay, we'll talk. We really didn't explain it clearly why it's a milveh, right? Why is it a milveh? So we're going to discuss this now. Okay, but Ravami himself, and the Gemara itself, it's a milveh. Therefore, when the Mishnah says it has to be Shavuot Pruta, we bring up the closing date, the last date has to be a Shavuot Pruta. Okay? So let's talk about Shema Mino. No, Tosas differentiated. No, because there Tosas says, if you give her, let's say we give her all 3 dates, and he says the marriage should take place in 30 days from now. So he may differentiate it. No, he differentiated. Because there he says the husband did a full act of marriage. Now we're just talking about when will it be effective. Here, the act of marriage wasn't completed. So he didn't want her to eat that date until it was completed. So when she ate that date, what did she do? So now when he wants to use that date, it's the money you owe me. Because really she shouldn't have eaten that date. He wanted all the dates to be intact when he completes the act. You hear, Ernie? As a result of that, when we conclude, he says, now we're going to include what you ate. When you ate, I didn't give it to you for marriage yet. It's only if it was intact. So now what are we doing? The money you owe me for that date, together with the date I'm giving you, I'm going to marry you. So that's milveh. And what? So let's say the last date is less than a cent. So that's Mekadosh b'milveh. Because what had the value it no longer exists. So that's milveh and Mekadosh b'vein b'kodeshes. But we're going to see it's not simple. But this is a Ravami. Ravami is classifying what was eaten as milveh. So Rava says, Shema Mino midrabami tlas. We're able to draw from Ravami 3 halachas. We see Ravami's position, 3, extrapolate from him 3 laws. Shema Mino makadosh milvein b'kodeshes. Right? Firstly, we're able to draw from there. If you marry a woman with a debt, an owed debt, she's not married. Of course, Thursday you have to give her something at the time of the marriage. What are you doing? You're waiving the debt. You're not giving her anything. What she has, she has. You're canceling the debt. I'll give you an example. It's interesting. No, it's a Gemara. It's a Gemara. It's a Gemara. It's a Gemara. It has value. No, Ravam, it's not simple. Mekadosh milveh. That's the Gemara we had before on the Vavam and Days. Mekadosh milveh and Mekudeshes. You know, it's interesting. There's a halacha. There's an expression known as, if I make a neder, I make a neder that somebody is not permitted to benefit from me. Not permitted to benefit from me. And then he has a creditor. The person I said he's not, he has a creditor. And then afterwards, I go and I pay off his debt. The man was hounding him. He was going to take his house. He was going to take everything from him. And I go, out of Rachmanis, I pay off his debt. So the creditor should leave him alone. Firstly, there's one. First, does he have an obligation to pay me? Right? The debtor, who I paid off his debt, has the obligation to pay me. What's the halacha? Halacha like this. If I go, the halacha is mazik b'shus harabim. If you leave, let's say, a bushel of peppers, right? Holland peppers. Okay? Only I said Holland because Howard is sitting here. Holland peppers in Rishus Harabim, and somebody's animal goes and tramples on them. Is there any liability to the owner of the animal? No. Why? Because mazik b'shus harabim, you're potter. What about if your animal goes and eats those peppers? They eat the peppers. Now, do you have to? You have to reimburse the owner of those peppers for the value of a bale of hay. I mean, my animal. What was the benefit to the animal? Not Holland peppers, but the owner saved himself a meal. Because the food the animal ate, the value is satisfying the animal. So we speak of nene. You benefited. What was the value of the benefits? We have to evaluate what's the benefit. The value of the benefit is what the animal normally eat. So that's the obligation of restitution that the owner of the animal has to repay the owner of the peppers.
But if the animal dies?
He takes the loss. But he's reimbursed some very minimal. Very minimal. He's reimbursed. Okay? Okay? Because over there, that's called nene. If you benefit, you have to reimburse. The Gemara speaks about a case If a person normally is a renter, he rents, and the owner of the location, he leases out his property. Somebody goes, moves in for the night without the owner's knowledge. The owner was out of town. Does he have to pay him a night's rent? So the halacha is he has to pay. Because since he's inish to ovid lemegar, he's a person who normally rents, you benefited. You would have to stay in a hotel otherwise. So for you, staying in the apartment is a benefit. Right? So you have to pay. What about if he has his own house? Just for convenience, why? He says, what, I have to walk a block. I'll move in, I just don't feel like inconvenient. He moves into somebody's apartment for the night. Does he have to pay? So the person who owns the apartment doesn't rent his apartment, and the person, the temporary dweller, he has his own place. He doesn't have to pay anything. That's not called nene. That's not benefiting. You know why? Because he has a place to stay. He's doing the wrong thing, but there's no financial liability. There's no fine, because that's not called you've benefited. One second. Wait, we'll get there. I'm getting to the debt. I'm not holding about a debt yet. So, okay? So let's say a person has a debt, and I pay off his debt. Right? Does he have to reimburse the person who paid off the creditor, because for whatever it is, he no longer has a debt? So the Gemara says in the Dorim, Hiniach ma'osav al keren hatzvig. What happens mistakenly, you hang your purse on the horn of a deer. The deer runs off. Where's your money? It's gone. So when you paid off the debt, it's the equivalent of Hiniach ma'osav al keren hatzvig. Why? What's the halacha if a lion pounces on the person and you pull the person off the lion off the person? Did you give the person anything? You didn't give it to the person. Now, by pulling the lion off, now the person has his life. Did you give him his life? He's alive. You prevented him that he shouldn't be killed. Getting the credit off the back of the debtor, you took the lion off his back. That's not called nene. Nene means you have to do something overt benefit to the person. The person actually benefits. He doesn't bother me any longer. You haven't given me anything. When the animal eats, there's a benefit to the animal. If I normally rent and I stay in your apartment, I benefited from the night stay. That's why there's an obligation of reimbursement. Okay? The Torah says when you marry a woman, you have to give her something. You have to give her something. Kikach isha. You have to give her kesef. She has $1 million debt. He says, I'm marrying you with $1 million debt. I'm waiving it. It's only you took the line off my back. You understand? You haven't given her anything. What's saying? Okay. You have to digest it. Okay.
Rabbi, speaking of digestion, what about
indigestion? Okay.
indigestion?
I hear it.
What about the previous example you used, where the animal eats the pepper and dies out of eating the pepper?
You sound like a modern-day lawsuit, New York City. Okay. So what you want to hold? What's the name? Libel? Are you asking because the animal never benefited?
No, he didn't benefit, but the owner of the animal lost the animal.
So that's his problem. He should have watched his animal. I'm not liable that you lost your animal, right? Here we're discussing did you benefit. So probably if the animal dies, he didn't benefit. Okay? It's not benefiting. That's not called benefiting. It's the concept of Mekadosh b'milveh. That's Mekadosh b'milveh. What did you give her? What did you give her? You relieved her of $1 million debt. I'm marrying you by relieving you of the $1 million debt. It's crushing. And she says, thank you, 1,000,000 times over. You gave her nothing. Because there was what? You had a claim to her. You're removing the claim. You didn't you didn't give her anything. If you gave her something, then she's married. If you're Mekadosh b'hanos b'chilas milveh. If you say I'm marrying with the value of waiving the debt. No, because there you're giving her. That's the pleasure. Because you'd pay someone that she's mukadeshes. I'm talking about Mekadosh b'milveh. The $1 million you owe me, I'm marrying you with that. He didn't give her $1 million. He removed the burden of the $1 million. But he didn't give it that to her. No, it's less. If a man says, I'm marrying you with $1 million, and I'm, what's his name, and he gives her 5 cents, is she married? He didn't give her $1 million. He said $1 million. He didn't say 5 cents. Right? We're talking about, if he says, Hanos Mechilas Milva, that's the value. What would you pay for the debt to be waived? So that's evaluated. Right? You normally have to pay a fee for that. So I'm agreeable. So that you gave me. You have to give. You don't have to say take away. No. Well, not take. No, you don't have to say that. You say you have to give something.
No, because that's why I understand the debt. By paying debt, I think giving her, taking away the debt. So
you're removing a burden.
So it would be better for someone in that position to purchase the debt instrument from that other holder.
Or he doesn't even say that. Doesn't have to say that. You could say Harei Mukdeshes Li B'Hanos Mechilas Milveh. The benefit that you're receiving, because now you're relieved. What would you pay to be relieved? That's benefit. That's minimally a Shaveh Pruta. She's Mukudeshes. Okay. So, Shmamino, we were able to draw 3 laws from Rababi's position. Shmamino, Hamakarish Milve'in Mukudeshes. Shmamino, Hamakadesh B'Milve Upruta. He's marrying her with what? With the date she ate, which is Milveh, and with the last date, which is a Shaveh Pruta, he says Mukudeshes. So now the question is, what is her mindset? What is his mindset? With what is she getting married? With the Pruta or with the Milveh? If her mindset is, I'm being married with the debt, the release of the debt plus the penny, that's what I'm receiving, then she's not married. Because the Torah says, if that was the prerequisite for the marriage, he didn't give you that. He didn't give you the $1 million. He relieved you of the $1 million, but he only gave you a penny. So we say the mindset is for what I received, even though it's a Shaveh Pruta, and the debt was much greater than what? Right? There's a discussion later in the Perek about this. You know, Shaul HaMelech had an issue with David, and originally Michal Bashol, or the sub-mayor of who the wife was married to David, and they had this fallout. So he took her away from David, and he claimed, and there was an argument between David and Shaul, was it his wife? What was the discussion? Originally, he said David went and killed endless Philistines, and he took Orlas HaPlishtim. You hear this? He cut the foreskins off the Plishtim, and he gave that with money to, what's his name, to marry her. So over there, this whole discussion over there, Pruta and Milveh, this kind of thing over there. So what is the mindset? Is it on the Pruta or is it on the Milveh? If it's on the Milveh, then she's in B'Kodeshes. If it's on the Pruta, regardless of how much you relieved on, so the mindset is on what you received. That was the argument between Shaul and David. Whether Shaul had a right to take his daughter away, say the marriage was never a marriage, and David says no, and we rule like David held, that the mindset is what you received. It's not what you relieved. Okay, we'll get there. Ushmami no. Ushmami no. This is going to be the most Ba'al Machosrim. That under normal circumstances, the money, let's say the marriage doesn't work out, the woman has to return the money that she received. The husband's not giving to her as a gift. The man gives her the ring, and then afterwards, whatever, like we discussed the engagement ring, then the engagement is broken. So the chosan, he wants his ring back. She says, what do you mean? You gave it to me for keeps. She says, no. If you're going to be my wife, then you have a right to the ring. I'm not sure if Mr. Glick would like it too much. He has to reimburse to take the ring back. Okay. A gift. He gave it to me as a gift. Matana. He gave it to me as a gift. Right. So we see from him that what? That the money has to be given back. Because we're saying it's milveh. Milveh means that what? He didn't give us a gift. Okay, we will continue.